that men, especially black men, are incarcerated so much that they can't be around their kids.
Yeah.
You know, and we still have when Father's Day comes around, what do some single mothers do? Not all single mothers. You know, they want to be told Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Which is the biggest load of bullshit ever. It's like you have Mother's Day for that.
Yep.
It's like on Father's Day, no, you're not the father.
You're not.
You're just taking care of your son or your daughter on Father's Day, like you do every other day.
Yep. And I mean that is super hard to explain to people because, and that goes back to what we originally was talking about, like thinking like a man. Like a father is just as hard to replace as a mother is. And when you start thinking that you're actually filling the role of the father, there's a completely different issue there. Like you might be able to financially fill that role, you may be able to toughen your kid up, but to actually have the thoughts, actions, and responses of an actual man without being a man, just it's not possible. So that's just like I can't even comprehend why anyone would say that, because I can't imagine looking at my son on Mother's Day, you know, if his mother wasn't around, which his mother is around and she does an amazing job, but let's say she wasn't around and Mother's Day rolls around and I'm like, you know what, people should tell me Happy Mother's Day because I'm feeling, but no, I'm not. The day isn't gonna come where I'm not gonna be I'm never gonna be as nurturing as she is, or I'm never gonna be as playful, and that comes along, like you say, with being a black man in America. Like there's,
you didn't incubate him for 9 months.
Like the connection is different. There are things that I've encountered that's hardened me, that makes me want to harden him. I don't want him to be overly hard, but I know what he's going to encounter in the country that we live in, being what he is. So it's kind of like I would be screwed if I didn't have his mother. And if a woman can't understand that if you don't have a father in the picture or a father figure in the picture to teach your child, whether it's a son or a daughter, about certain aspects of the culture and society we live in, even within the African American culture itself, you kind of like you're missing the point. You don't get it.
Yeah, and this isn't casting any shade on any single parent homes, because there are plenty of amazing single mothers and single fathers that are doing a great job. But the thing is, they're not doing both roles. They're just doing their best.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's most important. You know, like you, as long as you're raising your kids to be the best person that they can be. You know, who's tough enough to survive this world.
Yeah. You
should be recognized, but you don't need to piggyback on another day or look for another day to get any kind of credit, because it's not true.
No. But I mean, that comes along with both understanding and understanding that you don't understand. And I remember when I first moved to the DCE area back in, what was it, 07, 08? And like I was mentoring guys in Baltimore, and I remember one of my closest friends now, you know, I call him my little brother. He's a Marine now. Like I remember how many times he came to me and he told me, you know, my mother never told me this stuff. And it wasn't because his mother didn't know to tell him and stuff or that she wasn't doing her best job. It was primarily because like she just didn't think like that because she wasn't a man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
a mentality that you just can't replicate.
Yeah, that's just really what it came down to. And I saw, and I was still relatively young. Like I'm still in my early 20s. So like I just saw the impact that I had on his life as being a male figure that he never had, that wasn't, you know, running the streets in Baltimore selling drugs, or, you know, telling him that dealing drugs was the only way to go. And the impact is priceless. Like you can't put a price on it. And I remember, you know, having the same thing when I was growing up. Like my stepdad stepped in and was like, look, this is what is and this is what isn't. And you need to understand that. Luckily for me, I was relatively young. Like I was in kindergarten. So it was like I was super young. Mm-hmm. But without that, like I don't know what I would have turned out to be. And when I look at other people, I see it the same way. Like if you're trying to actually replicate a man's thoughts, abilities, and chivalry and what needs to be done for a woman without actually being a man yourself, like you just can't do it. Like it's hard to explain without waking up as a man, really. Like I know what I'm gonna face when I walk out of my front door in Washington D.C. as a black man in America, especially in the time that we're in. And I understand that throughout the United States, and that's stuff that you need to understand and prepare your kids for. Period. But and I encourage females to do the same thing because, like you said, it's nothing against saying like they're not doing their best, so they're not being a good parent. It comes down to understanding that a male role model is necessary. And whether you find that in your family, in the community, in your church, or wherever you got to find it, your child needs a male role model. Not just for sons, for daughters as well. Because
only a man can teach teach a boy how to be a man.
No. And I mean on the opposite side of that. And that's where I feel like some of this is coming from too. Like a lot of that fell in line with social evolution. So it started a cycle that still hasn't been broke. And here's why it hasn't been broke. When women couldn't break free from men when they were doing wrong because they was financially dependent on men, it hardened the women. So those women told their daughters, make sure that you do whatever you can so that although you'll still have a man, you don't need a man to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So they came up and they decided, you know what, I'm going to do whatever's necessary to make sure I have the necessary financial capabilities to be independent. Independence is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling that your independence defines you to the point where you need to present it as your opening mark or your defense when you meet somebody is a guard more so than it is you being independent. And what you've done is you've created a wall, and that is a defense mechanism. So basically, you're meeting someone and you're saying, "I don't need you. So if I want you around, but you're not necessary."
Yeah. I think it's almost like a narrative conflict, because there's a difference between saying, do this because you don't need a man to do nothing, and saying you want to be independent.
Yes. But you know what? That's why that cycle keeps going, though, because the opposite side of that cycle is daughters that don't have a male figure in their life. At home, what happens is usually how a woman should be treated is defined at home. Which is now I will never allow my son or any other child, regardless of the circumstances, have me disrespect a woman in front of them. Like, I just won't do it. And I've had women go off. I've had women lay their hands on me. I've had women do all kinds of things. And I just simply will not go past a certain threshold in front of a kid. Because how you treat a woman is defined at home. Which is why, and I was a hellraiser growing up. so like, me and my mother got into it plenty of times. But when it comes down to it, I'm not going to disrespect my mother on a level that lends credence to the fact that it's okay to treat women that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, like, usually when it's picked up at home, women go out, and you can tell the difference between a woman that's been told every day from her father, look, you're beautiful, you're the best thing in the world, this is what you deserve, how it is. Self-confidence through the roof, they're not worried about anything. Women that haven't got that, they go out and they look for validation.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy issues is a real thing. I mean, that's just...
Self-worth does come from the parents.
And if that hasn't been established, and then you go out in the world looking for it, you're giving somebody leverage before you even get out in the world. Because you're looking for something that you haven't found at home. And then you go out to a lot of men that ain't shit. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And it's easy to pick up on, and they take advantage of it. Somebody that's not, out for their own good, like, are going to be like, all right, I recognize something is wrong here, and they're going to nurture it and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Even women that I don't end up with, I'm still going to treat them the way they should be treated, regardless. Because that's just what you're supposed to do. Now, that's a double-edged sword, because some women going to take that and be like, you know what, I've never gotten this, so you must be in love with me or something. No, I'm not in love with you by any means. No, it doesn't go beyond whatever this relationship is. However, and I tell women this directly all the time, I won't disrespect my mother. I won't disrespect my sister. This is how you're supposed to be treated. This is how I was raised in Georgia. This is what you will get. Because this is what you are entitled to by what I was taught. However, I mean, we know it. There are dudes in the world be like, shit got low self-confidence.
And we also know there's limits.
Yes. Oh, there's tons of limits to everything. And that's what happens too. Like, and that goes back to women that say they think like a man. Like they push those limits because they feel like, all right, I'm non-emotional. I'm non-attached. I'm here to fuck. And then when they break the limit because their emotion got involved, and then you revert them back to where it should be because they defined the relationship to begin with, then they get in their feels. And that disease, man, there's no cure for it. And it's not contagious like people think. Just because you and your feelings don't mean I'm going to catch it and be in my feelings.
Yeah. And that's the difference. I mean, you can't say you think like a man because there's some areas in which we're just different.
Fundamentally, but a lot of people miss that though.
We don't have that. There's some we just have different chemistry about it.
Yeah. But I mean, women got a lot of things that defines them as being women, and that is what.
That's what makes them so attractive to us.
Exactly. That is what they miss. Like it's not even that it's a bad thing that they react a certain way. It is what makes them them. Like we wouldn't want to be with women otherwise because they have so many other traits that we don't have. So it comes down to the fact is just be what you are. Nobody's asking you to be anything more than that. And if you know your worth, you will get your worth.
But how many people, men and women, do you know that you believe know who they are? Is the question. Because I don't come across that many.
Here's my thing with that. All right, I'm gonna piss a lot of folks off when I do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Here's why a lot of people don't know who they are, because they got the wrong families and they got the wrong friends. And the reason I say that is,
friends.
Exactly. Because in the West, people like to be liked, so they conform to whatever social group they're hanging out with so that they can be liked. If you have real, true friends, and I can say this 100% what you send across the table from me, like if I'm not being who you know that I am, I'm going to be instantly checked and corrected on who the fuck I'm supposed to be. Right then and there. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. Alright? And people that don't have true friends or true family, because family is some of the worst about it, they're going to want you to be somebody different, and they're going to reinforce that you should be somebody different. They're going to be encouraging you to be somebody other than who you are. And it's not until later in life that people get to the point where they're like, you know what, fuck it. Like, this ain't me. Like, this ain't what I want to do. Like, if it was up to me, I'd do this. Or if it was up to me, I'd do that. Like, people hang out with certain people, marry certain people, get certain jobs.
They build lives.
Exactly. Around the social influences that they've encountered.
Yes.
So what ends up happening is they live a lie for so long that they believe it. They eat it, they adapt to it, they become it.
Self-delusion.
And then later on in life, they're sitting there like, what the fuck happened to me?
What do you think that stems from? Do you think that stems from just growing up and not being encouraged to be the person?
It without a doubt starts at home, man. Because a lot of people that I see that do that, and that's why, like, you have to love your parents to death, especially if you have good parents. Like, your parents are gonna tell you what they expect of you, right and wrong, but a good parent is never going to tell you what you should be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the bottom. A good parent is never going to tell you what you should be. I want my son to be greater than me. I'm never going to define his personality and who he is supposed to be. But too many parents, especially parents that weren't shit themselves, want to live their lives vicariously through their kids.
And ultimately speaking, I think the sign of a good parent is, I guess when the child becomes aware enough and astute enough to realize that his or her parents are just as fucked up as anyone else.
But then what happens is they resent the parents. Because they know that they've been trying to live up to an expectation that wasn't realistic. Because if it was realistic, the parents would have lived up to it themselves.
Why can't you be this example that you want me to subscribe to?
And that is a prime example. Like, I just had this exact conversation with my son. Because I was like, you know what? I'm in school right now. I don't need to be in school. My career's set. I've been sitting around making six figures since 23. I'm not pressed for money. I'm not pressed to change, my lifestyle. Whatever I do is not impacting you directly. But what I will not do, under any circumstances, is tell you to do something I wasn't capable of doing myself. So literally, I lined up school. I lined up everything academically to go back and do it so that he can never look